Again, good morning, everyone. The idea for this, just as an introduction, this session is something that we actually, so the AMA session is something that we run every week, 10 a.m. on Mondays. This is an occasion for all of our users to ask some questions related to our services. But also every now and then we organized sessions that are focused on some specific topics, and then we try to use those 1 hour sessions to talk about things that are happening at Pawsey and that might interest our users. So this particular session is dedicated to PACER, a program that was pre-announced just recently on our web pages and in a couple of web services. And the session is to basically give you some more information about PACER. When you were registering for the session, you had an occasion to ask some questions. I'll try to address those, and I thought that it was actually a good idea to have a presentation prepared for this session, so that I will go through a couple of slides at the beginning, and then we'll see if I did address all the questions, and maybe there will be some new ones. Okay, so I'll start with the description of PACER. So what is PACER and what is the idea behind organizing that project? Then I will go through some of the program descriptions and the pre-announcement itself, where you can find some more information currently on that and why this is a pre-announcement and not an official announcement yet. Then we'll go to describe program stages and application process, and at the end we go to questions. So of course the PACER program is related to our the funding that we received just recently, and the Pawsey Capital Refresh project is basically a project where we will refresh all our current supercomputing, clouds, visualization and data infrastructure. In terms of supercomputing, we are basically looking at implementing that in 2 phases. So the first phase will provide researchers with a system that will be at least equivalent in total capacity to what we are currently using, with the latest generation of processors and increased memory per node. And then that session that phase is planned for beginning in mid-2021 to be implemented. And then the second phase is expected to be in production by mid-2022. So basically, when we are looking at the timeframes, we are looking at having the new replacement of Magnus and Galaxy installed at Pawsey in around about 2 years from now. So the PACER program is something that we did run in the past couple of times. That's under many different names. So this is a program which we usually run before we actually give operational access to all our users. We try to work with selected groups to make sure that we cover most important computational workloads that are running on our systems. That can be easily identified by looking at the usage numbers from previous years. But in that particular opportunity of having a new system on a totally different scale, we will be actually looking at running it slightly differently. We will be opening a call for researchers to apply for a support through the PACER program. So it's going to be actually quite extensive program. It's going to be run over at least 3 next years, where Pawsey will be working in collaboration with the projects selected through the call. Like I said previously, we were running similar programs. We had the Pawsey's Petascale Pioneers that was organized for the Magnus system. Other examples are the Athena Early Adopters program that we have run for the new GPU and KNL infrastructure that we have installed around 3 years ago at Pawsey. And there are similar programs that are being run in other centers. So if you want to have a look at what, for instance, NERSC's NISA program is doing, or Oak Ridge National Labs CAR, so the application readiness programs that are run in those centers, please follow those links. The description of the program. So the main purpose of PACER is to prepare Australian computational researchers for the next era of supercomputing. That's obviously related to the installation of the new system that will be available at Pawsey. So the project will involve application adaptation optimization for selected highly important challenges of science for the next generation supercomputing platforms. It will be in a minimum 3-year collaboration between researchers, Pawsey HPC experts, hardware software vendors, as well as other international HPC centers and experts that do collaborate with Pawsey. Yeah, I just wanted to emphasize here that that will be a significant investment from Pawsey, not only an investment that I'll also go through later into this co-funding model that we want to offer, but also investment of FTEs related to basically our experts, supercomputing experts, working very closely with researchers to develop or further optimize codes for the next platform. All projects will also involve running a grant challenge problem. So basically that means that every project applying for PACER will need to specify what that grant challenge problem is in their specific scientific domain, and what they will be able to achieve, or what they are looking to achieve on the new system that will be installed at Pawsey. One another thing that is I think quite important to mention, and that actually answers one of the questions that was asked during the registration, that the focus of PACER is both on supercomputing research. That means, for instance, developing new algorithms to run on architecture like GPUs, or specific architecture that will be available on the new supercomputing system at Pawsey, as well as using the computational infrastructure to facilitate research for producing scientific outcomes. So we will be working throughout those next 2 years, we will be working in collaboration to optimize the codes or develop new algorithms for the system that will install in 2 years. And then there will be a period of time where researchers will be able to use those optimized applications or new codes to run simulations on the new system. So there will be a 2-year preparation for actually then the implementation phase of running using those codes, and then producing scientific outcomes out of it. Yes, so applicants are encouraged to submit high quality original proposals. So basically what we'll be looking at, it will be, we want researchers to define the scale of the computational scale, and basically relate that scale to our current resources, what it actually means for them to go from Magnus to the new system that will be installed at Pawsey. That the computational approach can actually and should cover the entire scientific discovery workflow. So if there is any visualization involved, if there are any data challenges involved, that should be all mentioned and also, described nicely within the proposal. The results and scientific outcomes must be publishable in high quality of journals. One of the things that we'll be looking at while Pawsey staff members will be working with you closely on optimizing their algorithm and developing new methods, we'll be looking at having joint publications between Pawsey and PACER projects, wherever it is applicable, of course, depending on the actual contribution from our side. We'll define on how we can run that as well. There will be a huge collaboration component. We'll be looking at presenting the work that will be done within PACER projects together on selected conferences and workshops. The proposal will need to also define the impact on the scientific domain and as well as on society if that applies. Applicants will be encouraged to submit joint proposals. So what we are basically looking at is to make sure that all the projects that we select within PACER will have the impact on as many groups as possible, and basically on the whole computational domain. So for instance, gathering researchers that are using similar methods, or that are using similar codes that need to be optimized, or that are using similar algorithms that need to be developed for the new platform. Having said that, the program committee will, when assessing PACER proposals, they will be taking a portfolio approach to support a wide spectrum of scientific domains, as wide as possible. And also, program committee can also request or suggest 2 or more projects to combine. The co-funding component, this is actually something which is quite unique if you look at all the other projects that we have run, similar projects that Pawsey has run in the past. So the co-funding from Pawsey side is also, of course, related to the fact that our staff will be working closely with you to develop and optimize codes. But there is also a special funding coming from the Pawsey Capital Refresh project. And based on that, we will be looking at co-funding a 2-year postdoctoral or PhD position embedded within the projects, PACER projects, to work both on the scientific side and computational aspects, computational technical aspects of the projects, of PACER projects. That actually means that there will be, so the people that will be co-funded will actually work very, very closely with Pawsey staff and also participate in many various trainings and activities that we will be organizing with the vendor to make sure that those people also develop and grow their competencies in the HPC area to help and actually grow that aspect within the Australian research community. The 2-year thing, because there might be questions why it's 2-year and not 3-year, because we've said that actually the PACER projects will be running on the new system after the system will be installed. So more or less in 2-year time, there will be 1-year period to run simulations on the new system. The 2-year co-funding actually is related to the restrictions of the Pawsey Capital Refresh project, which basically means that we need to spend the money before the end of that project. So it's more or less 2-year co-funding for those positions. However, we are trying to organize it as flexible as possible. We previously were working in similar collaborations with other universities. For instance, that kind of collaboration can be based on the MOU agreements where we defined the scope of the next half a year or next, I don't know, quarter of work, and the co-funding is related to that, and basically works within that framework. Yeah, just to detail that the projects must be research focused with PI employed at the Australian university or research institution. There is a collaboration model. So basically collaboration will serve as a foundation for achieving this extreme performance on next generation supercomputers. And that means that we will be looking at having this close collaboration, 3-year collaboration, and also allocation on both Magnus during the preparation for PACER, and then on the new Pawsey system in phase 1 and also then in phase 2, as well as continuous expert support from Pawsey staff and collaboration between vendor and other centers, as I mentioned. So PACER will also include the organization of joint workshops, trainings, as well as joint preparations of joint conference talks and journal papers. The pre-announcement that we did, I think it was more or less 2 weeks ago, that was actually related to the thing that we wanted to make sure that all researchers are prepared for submitting their proposals. The actual call for proposals will be open together with the announcement of the system. We are currently looking at having that organized more or less in September, but I mean it's hard to say or to commit to a certain date because we are still in the procurement process, and many various challenges. Some of those related to current COVID-19 situation, and it's actually although we are looking at finalizing that very soon. We decided to make the pre-announcement to make sure that everyone is prepared for, or at least do some primary investigation for this co-funding options within the research organization, and start preparing for the call when it will be open. So if you want to look at the details of the pre-announcement, please have a look at the Pawsey page or the HPC Wire News article, or the Pawsey Capital Refresh podcast that we have recorded with some information there. But I guess this presentation covers a bit more details on that. So yeah. Now I'll go to program stages. So first, we have defined a couple of stages of the program, basically also related to how the infrastructure will be available and what Pawsey will be, what type of Pawsey activities Pawsey will be organizing around the new infrastructure. So first one is the training. So basically preparing for the new system, technical and domain-specific training provided to Pawsey staff and PACER researchers. Training will be discussing that part of training will be mostly discussing technical aspects of phase 1 and phase 2 supercomputing architectures, and we run in close collaboration with the vendor. So basically that means that we want to have PACER researchers in and especially those embedded positions that we will create. We want them to be participating in that training that will be delivered originally for Pawsey staff. Preparation of workflows and software development environments, whatever is needed to run PACER projects, whether it's those are compilers, specific compilers, libraries, tools necessary to support PACER projects. We'll be looking at implementing those on the test and development platform that will be installed before the phase 1, and then having them all supported on phase 1 when it will become necessary. Then the third stage is the code and algorithm adaptation, porting and benchmarking. That's something that will be organized on the phase 1 system, and then when it becomes available, and then in the preparation to achieving also superior performance on the phase 2 system when it becomes available. And then we are expecting to have some dissemination activities at this stage, which will be basically related to workshops and conference talks at that level, because we will be working on a pretty new infrastructure, and that might already create some specific technical outcomes which can be communicated throughout various conferences. Then the code optimization, so the stage which needs actually access to the final infrastructure, so the phase 2 system. So again, implemented in close collaboration between PACER and Pawsey staff and vendor. And then when the phase 2 system becomes available, we will be implementing the optimization or further optimization on the system. Main dissemination activities at this stage will include workshops, conference talks, publications, and if applicable, computational science journals as well. And the last stage will be the access to the phase 2 system, where you can actually use then those codes and methods that were developed throughout the project to run the grand challenge problems that were defined throughout the submission proposals. And let me go through the application process. So as I mentioned, PACER will be officially announced and call for projects will be published together with the Pawsey Supercomputing System announcement. The call will be open for at least 1 month. The assessment criteria will be based on research review, collaboration and co-investment review, science and research priorities and programs review, as well as technical review. So I wanted to emphasize here that this collaboration and co-investment part is really important for PACER. So we'll have a separate panel of the PACER committee looking at that particular model. However, we don't want to create any specific recommendations on how that collaboration should look like. I think in the current situation where, I mean, not only but other institutions are also struggling throughout the current situation, not only in terms of how we need to operate, but also how we, on the financial side, I think it's important to leave a little bit of flexibility here for the applicants to define how those collaboration and co-investment can look like. Applicants will be informed, and first development and training activities, we are looking at starting those at late 2020. So throughout the application process, you will be asked to provide the project title, the project summary, research classification, and define the project team, participants, their research record, 10 best publications over the last 5 years, research funding over the last 5 years, technical supercomputing or data science experience. So I think more or less very similar components that are usually that we usually ask for when you apply for instance, NCMAS applications. Then for the research proposal, so to define the research significance, the computational methodology, which is quite important here, the description of major technical computational milestones, including information about new development required. For instance, if there is a new algorithm that needs to be developed, or that's an optimization of current computational data processing model on this particular specific architecture. Then what application and tools and libraries will be used or will be needed to achieve those goals, as well as the description of programming languages, parallelization strategies, GPU readiness. So basically a lot of information about technical side of things, right? A lot more than you usually specify within, for instance, NCMAS applications, because based on that, we'll need to define what is the actual component, optimization and development component of the project, and what is the actual challenge here to reach the new scale on the new system, whether it's just compilation or whether it's actually something that we need to contribute to, and we need to work on actually basically achieving the new scale on the system needs some significant development that needs to be specified and described how we will actually reach there. Description of the reference large-scale computational model implemented on previous generation supercomputers. That's basically, we want, one of the outcomes of the projects should also be a comparison, like this is the new scale that we are achieving on the new system. This was the scale that we are bound to on the previous generation supercomputer. And this is mostly, this is not the most important goals of the project. However, this is something we will also need to get out of the projects, basically to define what is the success of the Pawsey Capital Refresh project in general. Quite an important part of the proposal will be description of the grand challenge problem. So what we will be actually looking at implementing on the new system. So what will be the challenge simulation or challenge data processing task that will run on the next generation supercomputer, as well as computational characterization of that grand challenge problem, which will be mostly related to the technical details, but will also include quantitative characterization of the computing capability. So basically peak memory footprint, or the total number of flops required to run the jobs, or an IO footprint, or bandwidth required to run a specific data processing challenge. We will be also asking to define or propose a quantitative measures on how we actually can see that the scale of the simulation is totally new and something that was not available in the previous system. So how we measure that, whether it's the number of atoms, whether it's number of grid elements of the simulation, or number of genomes we can process in a given amount of time. And as well as one of the parts of the application will be also to define the statement of alignment with Australian science and research priorities and programs. So this is something that we also ask for in some of our applications, like for Guerrilico allocations. As mentioned before, an important part of the application will be to define the collaboration and co-investment. So declaration of collaboration with Pawsey on project reporting and dissemination, workshops, conferences, and papers. Proposal and declaration to co-fund postdoctoral PhD positions, as mentioned before. Declaration of FTE engagement within the project. Any additional supporting funding. For instance, if there are some additional funds to co-fund some events together with Pawsey or with the vendor, I'm thinking of any workshops, events, travel, and participation in various conferences. And the declaration, and that will be actually, as we'll be asking you to declare that you are ready to prepare joint research papers and participate and present at key supercomputing events and conferences together with Pawsey. Of course, I mean, this is something that will be applied only if for instance, with the joint research papers, we will be only asking for organizing such a joint collaboration only in case where our effort is significant to, for instance, develop a new model, a new algorithm, or reach a new performance level. So wherever it's applicable.